You got to wonder about the spin on the economy and on the war. On the economy, you've got the president saying that everything is looking right. We're going in the right direction, even as his Treasury Secretary admits that we're going to have unacceptably high levels of unemployment for unacceptably long. On the international front, we're told that Afghanistan, the war there, is going in the right direction too. Yet the news of the day bears gruesome admissions from special forces operations there that after denying it for weeks, indeed their forces did have an involvement in the killing of 2 pregnant women and the cover-up of those killings in a bungled raid in February. What can any of us do about any of this? Well, no wonder some people get driven to distraction, not to mention violence. Is there a link between what's happening there and the news we're getting, the role the media play? Rory O'Connor is here. Rory is the author, as you may remember, of Shock Jocks, a book about the power of right-wing radio. He's also on the board of a new campaign, Not in Our Town. Rory, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
First, this Afghanistan news. I mean, they denied it 4 weeks. Now a huge cover-up? What's happened?
Well, if the war in Afghanistan is going well, I'd hate to see it when it's going badly. As you know, General McChrystal just last week, as I blogged about, made what I thought was a stunning admission that we had, I should say coalition forces, had killed more than 30 people at checkpoints, none of whom were a threat to them. This is General McChrystal, the top American and the top NATO commander in Afghanistan, making this stunning admission, which was promptly reported in the New York Times and then ignored by the rest of the media. The real problem, however, is not so much at these checkpoints where a mere 30 people who pose no threat to the forces were, but actually in the airstrikes against civilians and in these special operation strikes against civilians, such as the one that you just mentioned. So clearly we have a huge problem, despite General McChrystal's emphasis on reducing civilian deaths in Afghanistan.
Now, this is exactly what the U.S. administration didn't need today, and that was this admission coming from the special forces. Not only was there a cover-up since February, these 2 pregnant women, one a mother of 10, one a mother of 6, but there was tampering with the evidence. I mean, gruesome stuff.
Yeah, apparently the bullets were cut out of the bodies in an attempt to cover up the fact that they were shot. This also on the heels of President Karzai, who after all was basically installed as president by the United States, who is now, if you will, totally left the support of both the United States and NATO. He gave another speech attacking the coalition forces there and saying that President Karzai, might join up with the Taliban. So clearly things are not going well in Afghanistan by any measure.
Yeah, he said, if the Western forces don't keep pressuring me, you've got more car bombs in Pakistan as we're talking. All of this level of violence versus the type of coverage we're getting of this conflict in this country is enough to drive you kind of crazy. Where do you go for your news?
Well, I go from my news to the internet and to social networks. I start the day by looking at my feed on Facebook, and then I go to Twitter, and I find that by the time I get to the mainstream media, I've already heard most of the news that they have.
Well, you're doing what a lot of other folks are doing too, which is going to social networks first. This week also brought us pretty worrying news on the U.S. side. Over the weekend, the raids of a group calling themselves the Hutari, another one, the Guardians of the Free Republic, who apparently were out there sending threatening notes to governors all across this country. What's going on?
Well, the bad news, and as you said, the media, particularly the mainstream media, likes nothing more apparently than to bring us bad news. Well, the bad news is that hate speech is up. Hate crimes are up. And yes, involvement in these extreme groups like the militia, like the Hutari that you mentioned, is increasing.
And they're all using their social networks to spread the word, to spread information, to even plan and organize.
Yes, they are. But the good news, the news that we don't hear enough about, is that community and citizen responses to hate and taking action in concert against it is also up, and it's up by even larger numbers. And that's why I'm so excited about the Not in Our Town movement, which is launching a new social network just this week at NIOT.org. And what that is empowering citizens who want to stand up and speak out and act against hate speech, against intolerance, with a whole new set of tools and a whole new community that they can act in concert with.
Well, let's give our viewers some sense of what people are up against. Here's a clip from Barack Obama, sounding as reasonable as he can about tea parties and the rise of violence on the National Front. Take a look.
The way the media covers politics these days, and the 24/7 news cycle, and the cable chatter, and the talk radio, and the internet, and the blogs, all of which tend to try to feed the most extreme sides of any issue. Well, I wouldn't paint in broad brush and say that everybody who's involved or have gone to a Tea Party rally or a meeting are somehow on the fringe. Some of them, I think, have some mainstream legitimate concerns.
So that's on the one side. On the other side, this.
30-round mag. Now, this is not something I would use for home defense. This is only for combat or a real Mad Max situation. With the way I have this configured, it would be basically for urban.
I think Progress found that video. It's part of a slew of videos posted by just one guy, Jonah, somebody or other, who is connected with the Guardian for the Free Republic movement that was calling on its forces to try to bring in a new world order here in the United States, and those threatening letters to the governors these last few days. Two things. One, where's the word terrorist in the discussion of these folks? That stood out to me in the coverage over the weekend. And two, is the kind of campaign that you're talking about and the kind of reasonable talk that Barack Obama's engaged in connecting? I mean, aren't these two completely different channels shouting at each other?
Well, the first thing I would say is this is terrorism. These are shocking admissions and allegations against the Hutari and the others. They were conspiring to go out and kill police officers, and essentially they're charged with conspiring to overthrow the government of the United States. If that's not terrorism, I don't know what it is.
Those are the people that were arrested in Michigan.
Yes. However, I want to draw a line between what President Obama is saying and what the Not in Our Town movement is doing. People in Not in Our Town are ordinary, quote-unquote, citizens who have stood up for more than 15 years, starting in Billings, Montana, when an entire community stood up and said, in response to acts of bigotry against Jews and against Native Americans and gays, we're not going to allow this in our town. And they didn't. And it set a model for the entire country. And what is exciting right now, yes, we have these images, very frightening images and dangerous people. Those people are a minority. Those people do not stand for the America that most people watching this show and most people out there in this country believe in.
We've got a clip from the Not in Our Town campaign, the new version that we'll go out with. Thank you so much for coming in, Rory. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We've got more information at our website. That's GRITtv.org.